Just to give you a short overview of the next 28 minutes, I will shortly introduce myself and then also have the keynote speech on our topic on pay gaps and pay equity today, followed by a Q&A session. So feel free to ask your questions via the chat during my session, and I will pick them up at the end when we have time saved for your questions. And I think it's 2 minutes, so almost 3 minutes past. I think we can start now. Before I introduce myself, I'm also very happy to see Laura from Leapsam here with us. Hi, Laura. Good to have you here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very
Happy, Alex, that you're here and sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be part of your People Over Perks online event, which is quite impressive what I've seen so far. And I'm very excited to have today a slot here as an HR expert to talk about pay gaps and pay equity. And I would say we just start. Let's see if the slides are working. There we go. Perfect. So we talk today about pay gaps and pay equity, designing effective compensation structures. And before doing so, I'd like to shortly introduce myself, so you also know who's talking to you. And I will give you already the overview of our agenda. We will have a Q&A session, so please ask your questions, maybe also your experience from pay equity, compensation frameworks, salary benchmarks, salary bands, and whatsoever. I'm very happy to pick them up then in the last minutes of our session today. So my name is Alexandra. I'm the founder and CEO of Edl Consulting. We are an HR consultancy helping companies throughout the whole HR lifecycle. We are also an independent HR software expert and certified software implementation partner, meaning we also know Leapsam as a tool very well, and we do implement that with our clients very successfully. Our mission as Edl Consulting is to develop fast, professional and tailored solutions so you as HR experts in companies can focus on your core business. I've been a head of HR myself. Before I started Edl Consulting, I'd love to have a pragmatic, hands-on HR expert that is that I can pull in whenever it's needed. So this is why we founded Edl Consulting almost 10 years ago. What do we offer our clients? We offer HR interim management. We do recruiting and active search, also coaching, mediation, and trainings. But our main focus is on HR processes and structures. And this is why we talk today also about, let's say, compensation schemes, compensation benchmarks, and salary bands. We do also, as mentioned, implement HR software. Some facts and figures about Edl Consulting. As mentioned, we are almost 10 years old. We are based in Central Europe. And we have over 500 HR experts in our team working globally with our clients. And looking forward to share some of our work and experience with our clients today here. You can see here some references, clients that have been working with us in the past. You also see more references on our website. Obviously, I will share the link later on in the chat if you want. Happy also to connect with you over LinkedIn. Today we talk about money, payment, the compensation, salary, all these buzzwords. Here I've brought some of the reference around these topics with me. 3 of our latest clients that worked with us. More on the references information on compensation benchmarking and bands you can also find on our website. Now let's start into the topic. This is why you're all joining the session, not to get to know us, but to get to know a little bit more about pay gaps and pay equity. And I'd like to start off with compensation benchmarks that might have been a topic amongst you already. And my question was, why is it so crucial at the moment to talk about fair compensation or pay equity as such? What we hear from our clients and also see in the market is there's quite an urgent, and this is there are new legal requirements coming in to make salary comparisons essential. And this is not only happening in the European Union when we talk about transparent directives, but also when it comes to retaining talent and obviously hiring talent. Skilled labor shortages and in an increasing competition. to require market competitive compensation. So I hear there's some noise. Maybe if you're joining us, you can mute yourself. And I'm inviting you to also get your camera on so we also see your faces, not only your initials. That would be great and helpful. Perfect. So coming back to the slide, why is compensation benchmarks a crucial topic at the moment? We see also amongst SMEs, the small medium enterprises, that they do have limited resources to take care of this topic in comparison to larger organizations who have maybe whole departments or teams dealing with comps and benefits, etc. But we also see that the colleagues contacting us, the HR colleagues contacting us for help, they see a complexity in selecting the right data sources for drawing for drawing the right conclusions. What is the right benchmark? What salary information to compare with? And so we come into play to help them to get through that jungle. I want to share some of the insights today, as mentioned. So more challenges around compensation benchmarks that we see is, as mentioned, not only legal and regulatory complexity that's increasing, but also the availability and the quality of data. We've seen a lot of companies going online and trying to find for free data, maybe on Glassdoor or other Google or AI-related sources. And often it's not consistent, it's maybe incomplete, you don't find all your job titles and roles listed there. Maybe it's also hard to compare because they do have different job categories or job names. They do have maybe in some regions no data available, or also regarding your company size, it's not comparable. What we also see is in companies that have various locations throughout various countries, that the cultural differences coming from these countries and regions might vary a lot. That comes into play, for example, can you talk openly about salary? Can you actually have pay transparency? Or is that culturally not relevant or not the topic? Also, when it comes to other structures like unions and etc., is there maybe a official payments scheme in place that you as an employer have to orientate along and can't really dictate or decide freely about payment structures? Looking at the second column on the right-hand side, the challenge that comes mainly during the projects that we are accompanying our clients is that you have external data sets and you know now what should be the right and adequate payment for certain roles. And then you have the existing staff, the existing employees with their salaries and compensation packages, and you somehow need to balance and match these. And often this is challenging. During times when the talent market is easy for you as an employer, you might find very great talent for little money. That's cool for you, obviously. However, there are times when you find talent very difficultly, or the scarce talent that is asking for a lot of payment, and you pay that, but this is messing up your internal salary equity. So these challenges need to be balanced during such a project that we are talking about now. The last 2 points, looking at the technological side and also the cost side. I don't know how many of you already have an HR tool in place, and I don't know how many of you do have analytical tools or compensation data in form of a tool that is interlinked through an API with your HR landscape, an IT landscape. But if this is not happening, it might become very complex to get all the data sets in together, and you do want to avoid manual copy pasting or manual effort because it's also prone to errors. And the last point, as mentioned, is the cost, not only the cost of compliance, but also the cost in general of efforts of misinterpreting data and losing talent, etc. So you want to do that right and be ahead of the game. So to summarize that slide, is compensation benchmarking is crucial for competitiveness of employers and companies today. And this really requires that you navigate well through the regulatory, cultural, and data complexity that the market is currently offering. So US companies must implement tailored strategies. That's at least what we say. And you really need to consider to invest in reliable tools such as LeapSum, who do also have, by the way, a compensation element included, and to ensure legal compliance to succeed. So the advantage of having a data-driven compensation scheme is, of course, that you're not only coping with compliance, but also retaining talent. And if you use specialized tools that really take care of your company size, of your regional scope, of your type of industry and job roles that you're talking, you can make informed decisions. And we do really recommend you rather start today if you haven't done so, because this topic has been in the market for a long time already. And we just see during the last months, this is picking up in relevance just because regulatory requirements pushing this topic forward, especially here in the European Union. I'm located in Switzerland, so we're a little bit different here, but in the European Union, this topic is becoming really relevant in January 2026. So we have about 4 more months to go until the regulatory pressure is pushing companies to really do something here. And as we all know, a topic around compensation that needs to be aligned, and it takes some time to implement. So take the time now to analyze and maybe start a pilot project already soon enough. So you're not pushed or you're risking fees and fines by regulatory breach. So coming back to our title of today's HR expert session, pay gaps and pay equity. I don't know how many of you understand the difference. This is why I brought this slide with. So if I talk about pay gap, and this is basically the average difference between the payment between groups. Let's put the gender topic like men and women. If you just compare that, there might be a difference in payment. If you just look at data or raw data and unadjusted payment gap, as we usually say so. So this data, when we talk about pay gaps, does not account for job levels or experience or role differences. It really just looks, for example, at gender. But if we talk about pay equity, this is a different term, and we prefer using that term because it talks about adjusted data, meaning the data of payment is adjusted for factors just as the job role, experience, education, performance, etc. So it's a comparable work. And we focus rather on eliminating these unexplained pay disparities within these comparable roles. So this is actually our focus, and this is also where the legal requirements focus on, that there is no bias and you can explain differences if there are any, for example, because of education, experience, performance, and different roles, for example. So why it matters? Pay gaps can signal, in general, structural inequalities, but not necessarily inequity. So if we talk about pay equity, we analyze the uncovers the pay differences that are justified by objective criteria or indicate bias. So let's look, how can we uncover or explain differences? How actually can we do that? So going back to creating a salary benchmark and coming to data from the market, as mentioned earlier, there's a lot of free sources in the internet world using AI tools, Google search, or other portals where compensation and salary information is shared freely. Be careful to use that. I mean, it's okay to use that for a first impression. And of course, this is the data that candidates or talents might use when starting a negotiation in salary or contract negotiations, but make sure you have really good data set. And salary benchmarking, so to say, is the process of comparing your internal roles and the payment for internal roles with the external market data. So when we support companies creating a salary benchmark, we really start on identifying, okay, what's the industry you're in, how large are you, how do you want to compare with others, or who are your competitors you want to be compared with, where's the location? Maybe there's different geographic locations or countries even that all need to be factored in the data analytics and the data of benchmarking. Then once we have the benchmark data, meaning a position with a number, we rather create bands, meaning we look for a minimum a median or midpoint data set, and a maximum. So usually for each role in each market, for that respective company size in that industry, has a salary band. For example, the junior online marketing manager has a range of salary that the talent is developing through. So that means maybe during the year one, he is in the first third of that band. In the second year, he might develop further. In the third year, he is on the upper third band. But it's not interlinked yet, not yet interlinked with the timing. It's just like an example I wanted to put in. So after you've created the bands, you definitely want to make sure that you have a data source that can regularly be updated. Especially when we have clients in countries where we have a huge inflation rate, these data sets need to be true data, real-time data, not data sets that have been collected a year ago and you now using that and you need to wait another year or 18 months until the data set is updated. You rather need tools that really deliver real-time data, especially in high inflation countries. So you really fast at the point when changing market trends are changing and you need to adapt your compensation. And you rather do that before waiting until candidate or staff is leaving and you have a retention issue. What you also need to prepare for a proper salary benchmark definitely is job descriptions. And I'm not talking about job roles or titles. You do need to have job descriptions. You might know what your online marketing manager is doing, but this might differ in terms of task and responsibility levels from one company to another. So the data set providers, they do not know. So you rather have the description and the job titles, and you search in the database what job title in the database is adequate to your internal job description. So you need to make sure to have an accurate market alignment and not benchmarking the wrong role just because the title sounds similar to a data set that is misleading. And lastly, we do also encourage our companies to factor in an own, to factor in their own cultural and philosophy or budget topics. Meaning, even though you do have now an external benchmark and you do have now them matched with your job descriptions of your company, you might want to understand how competitive do you want to be? Do you want to pay above market? Do you want to pay below market because you are sure you have a strong brand or your home office philosophy is very strong, or whatever factors you might have put in? Maybe also your organizational budget or the PACE philosophy is in a certain way. So you also need to use these insights to then come up with your own compensation benchmark scheme. So you might ask where to start and what to do to design pay bands and structures. To really build an effective compensation framework, you need to start with defining clear pay bands, as mentioned, come up with midpoints, minimum midpoints and maximum salary ranges for each of the roles, job families, etc., and use proper sources that do cost money. And make sure you also maybe use free sources at the site, but also make sure you get data in, for example, from the recruiters that talk to talents at the market. Maybe you have companies that you're friends with or other companies that you can share openly with. Also understanding their data insights might help here to get a good data source for your pay bands. Second step is you really align this market data with your internal equity data, meaning you match the salary benchmarking with your current staff and understand here where are mismatches. So who of your current employees is paid within band? Then you did a great job. Just by incident, you pay adequately. But there's probably also a lot of employees that might be paid below the respective band or above the respective bands. And here you need to go into more details and understand why is that. Is there an explanation? Is there objective criteria that you could explain why that is? Or is there need to adapt? Of course, it's always easier to adapt an employee and increase its salary and compensation over time, and then there is that someone is overpaid. But also here there are strategies that we recommend our clients to go for and to make sure that this is then all in line again. Here, I want to mention that it's really crucial to have a good communication with and good training for the leadership that is talking to the employees and also explaining. And this is step 3, be very transparent. Do you have a compensation framework? And be transparent about why do you have that? Is it really transparent? Can it transparently be shared depending on the culture you're going through, you're having in your company? And also explaining how that can be read. For example, is it a career development path that is also interlinked with that? Or here shown on this slide on step 4, is it connected to your performance and growth plans? Just if you have joined the session right today, the first HR expert session by Monica Sakar, who talked about also the competency framework, this is the point here, number 4 here on the slide. Connecting payment, obviously, with career development, behavior, performance metrics, etc. And the last point, and this is also, besides communication, probably one of the most crucial ones, is you need to understand that this whole topic is a continuous and ongoing project. You always need to monitor and adapt and update the data sets, but also the way how you deal with it in your organization. Integrate feedback loops, ask employees, be close to the leadership. Is the way you share the data and the quality of the data something that your clients, so to say, so your employees and your leadership actually being able to deal with? And is it helpful in employee reviews or certain discussions or meetings to define a career development and pay adaptations? Coming again a little bit on a summary slide is how is paid transparency has a strategic impact. We say it's really, if you do it properly with communicating on compensation frameworks and the pay equity topic, you can build trust and engagement amongst your employees. If they really understand how compensation decisions are made, this increases the trust and the motivation to keep and stay with you as an employer. It also supports definitely then on the retention side and on the recruitment side. Not only that loyal employees will recruit new colleagues in, but also convincing talents during the recruitment process, explaining them also maybe your compensation framework, maybe your competency framework that's interlinked with it, etc., is one of the decisive factors for most talents to join an employer. I think there's in the statistics, one of the top 3 reasons to join a company is, do they have career development and a fair compensation? So here you can really win valuable employees. The third point on that slide is talking again on compliance. You don't want to be pushed by regulatory requirements into something that you're not ready for, that you haven't prepared for, that you haven't thought through. So be ready when pay equity audits and reporting is required. So rather start ahead of these and help avoid legal risks. And as mentioned, it is a continuous approach. Make sure you have the resources and the capacities to have that as an ongoing process that's required consistent communication and periodic reviews, especially on the data sets, but also on the whole communication and process done in your organization. And yeah, communication is key because money is so crucial and a sensitive topic. Make sure you share the market benchmark data when you have pay decisions communicated. That makes it a lot easier for an employee to understand that this is, and it makes them feel fairly treated. Also use clear and simple language. So go away from this HR buzzword talk, but rather use clear and simple language. What is it really about that we're talking? And then provide opportunities for also employees to ask questions and provide feedback. So as an HR running the initiative to implement something new, but also during the annual or more frequent cycles of talking about compensation adaptations, Make sure you have an anonymous and a one-to-one platform offered to employees that really approach you. Also, this is building trust and motivation, that they can ask their questions and better understand what is done. Also here you get the feedback, what do you need maybe to explain a little bit better. And then a last point, train managers to discuss pay confidentially and empathically. Mentioned earlier, you need to train leadership to do that properly. This is a process, this is an ongoing process, but a critical one. I'm looking at the time flies. I've brought 3 screenshots from just historic projects that we've done. We've done salary benchmarks with one client, just really looking at salary bands and benchmarking data, and then using that not only for internal, but also for recruiting purposes. We've done also salary bands and benchmarks combined with development career frameworks. And the central screenshot here shows that you always need to consider what is salary, what is compensation, and then make it clear for employees that not only the monthly money landing on their bank accounts is that what counts, but there's a lot of other fringe benefits, maybe one-time bonuses, money that the employer puts into professional development, maybe the holiday accruals, and other benefits that also should be part of the whole compensation package that an employee needs to see when comparing with other employees. And that brings me to my last slide. A short recap. Compensation benchmarks and pay bands are key to structured equitable pay, and pay equity is a continuous process. I hope I made that clear today. It's requiring data-driven design and a transparent, well thought through communication. And now I'm happy if we have maybe 1 or 2 questions that I can pick up, but also, as I said, happy to answer your question afterwards if you connect over LinkedIn. So let's see if I can pick up 1 question. Train managers, yes, too often they try to just say because HR says so. Yeah, that's maybe not a good argumentation. Great. Yeah, it's maybe not enough time for questions, but I hope this was valuable for you. I put in my LinkedIn link here in the chat, and also happy to connect through LinkedIn with you there and answer your question maybe after this session. And I hope you enjoy the rest of today's People and Perks online conference. Thank you for your attention, and hope to see you soon somewhere around. Bye-bye.